come to the bold analysis. More than 8 members of parliament are in the recall shortlist. Just immediately, IEBC was formed. And there is a panic on these members of parliament that I'm going to reveal that list here on what exactly is the motive force, what is the fate, and now there is a mooted bill in parliament, and of course outside parliament there are also motives to litigate the by-elections that are pending, as politicians and MPs think that their careers are actually in the line. Kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell and like our videos. Thank you very much for supporting this podcast, and subscription is absolutely free. And the only advantage is when you subscribe to this channel, you'll be getting notifications whenever we publish our videos. And that is why we urge you to subscribe. And by subscribing, you are increasing. Remember, apart from political analysis, we are the only political podcast, that don't just critique governance issues, but we also rally ourselves towards a cause. And thank you very much for what we did in Mbere. We did this as a team, and I think our legacy is somewhere. By the way, I received a call from senior government official today, very senior person. Yeah, alisema nisimtaje. Yeah, but some of you who follow this channel know her. She's a very good friend of this channel. Na akasema tunafanya kazi mzuri sana. She's a cabinet secretary. Now, the IEBC announced recall letters that 3 MPs were actually facing the chopping board.
What's going on online? Kenyans are actively discussing this subject of recall. So we currently have roughly 4. We will look at them once we go back to the office. So going forward, of course, it's the right of every Kenyan to exercise that right of recall under the Constitution. And as IEBC, we will be there to do that which we can, or which the law allows us. We will receive those petitions, we will examine them, and then we will, of course, respond to them accordingly.
A man killed his...
Now things are changing, and this list is increasing with 8 members of parliament facing the wrath of the voters. And I want us to go through that and then look at what are the stakes in the recalls that MPs could be facing. The first person is Esther Passaris. Esther Passaris, there is a lobby group in Nairobi here that has been moving and are supposed now to even move to Bunge la Wananchi to collect signatures just to push what will look at in a bid to recall her as the women rep. Passaris was elected on ODM ticket, and it was in the surprise of many for her to sponsor, to be used to, actually not sponsor, for her to be used to sponsor anti-demo bill, just days to the Sabasaba protests.
Honourable members, let me be clear. The bill is not an attempt to muzzle dissent. It is a measure to ensure that protests are not hijacked by violence and that no Kenyan, be it a protester, a police officer, a bystander, suffers unjustly in the exercise of a right. Order is not the enemy of democracy, it is the foundation. We must protect the republic from disorder and ensure that the exercise of one's right does not become the infringement of another's safety. I urge this committee to support the bill, not for the government, not for Parliament, but for every Kenyan who values peace, justice, and the rule of law. Honourable Chair, I know that, and I've seen a lot of queries coming up on whether my bill and the bill that was once before you, brought by the Honourable Ruku, now currently the CS. I felt that it's important that I show that there is a difference between the two bills, because I know that bill did not see the order of day. So for me, it's important to clarify that while Honourable Ruku's bill sought to regulate the conduct of demonstrators, my amendment of the Public Order Amendment Bill seeks to organize the environment in which demonstrations take place.
And that, I remember even when Albert Ojwang was killed, she was in the forefront defending J.J. Lagat, saying the way, she was in the last months in Lagat when this news came in, and she was trying to make purchase here and there. And in her speech, she's been trying to, of course, a pro-GOK apologist. And amongst the leaders in Nairobi, elected leaders in Nairobi, the Senator Sifuna is critical of president, and Governor Sakaja defends the president only when the president is standing there. But the women rep has been strong on this. But I look at the Nairobi one, the Esther Passaris recall, from a different perspective. And the reason why Passaris could be in panic on this is, in Nairobi, there is no by-election that will bring the whole of Nairobi together. I think if there will be a by-election in Nairobi for women rep, then it means this would take all the constituencies in Nairobi. And the fear here is that while it could be seen as an aggression towards her stand on what she did in the past, but it could still be an inside plan by President Ruto's handlers to test the waters in Nairobi. Because it is in this city, and so many things will be at stake here. Would they be able to, if they successfully achieve a by-election of a women rep in Nairobi, that is supposed to bring heads of together and probably to try to forge a political truce between the leading parties, dissipates in the middle in it. But of keen interest, why even Passaris? Passaris, this move is hatched mostly targeting the Gen Z vote. And someone was telling me that the reason why the president might have changed his mind to demand, rather now to see a by-election happening, the by-elections happening, is because he wants to see how far the Gen Zs can still consolidate. Personally, I will also pay attention if situations allow, if the president accepts, by the way, if the president accepts a by-election to happen, even these others, I will really see to what extent will Gen Z influence the elections, and in terms of information flow. And now that we're in a digital age, I would be so much interested. But someone is targeting a by-election in Nairobi to gauge the Gen Z population, the voting pattern in Nairobi. The other person that is also facing one is Didym's Baraza. And I know, as I want to mention this so that immediately we finish and we look at the grounds of removing so that we capture which one falls, which one will fall. Didym's Baraza has actually fallen out with all the UDA MPs in Bungoma who threw their weight behind Tim Wanyonyi, and the move to dispatch Tim Wanyonyi in Bungoma for the governor's seat was seen as one of strategies that has been set now to limit Baraza. But remember, Didmas Baraza is also facing murder charges against one person that was killed, that he allegedly pulled the trigger and shot, allegedly, during the last general election. And it's on this ground that his recall is being created. Bungoma by-election would be a key one on this because it will test DCP and Tawi movement. These are key areas. What is the influence that Wetangula have on ground? And I can tell you, this is something that Wetangula would want to avoid at this point. What is the turnout? What is the percentage? Because these by-elections will actually mirror what would happen in the general election. We have three. We have these other four. Eric Wamumbi, Madeira Member of Parliament. Betty Maina, the wife, Muranga Women Rep. Mutuse, the sponsor of Rigathi Gachagwa's impeachment. And there is another MP from Meru. It's called Dawood. I'm told he's a Mwindi guy. I don't know. I don't want to make more. And the Wajir Women Rep, who recently made some inflammatory statements. Eric Wamumbi is accused of course, his troubles moves around going after Rigathi Gachagwa's head, especially after that impeachment. Mutuse was the sponsor of Rigathi Gachagua impeachment. You will understand outwardly how this would work, and that would be an interesting one. Mutuse, if a successful recall is done and a by-election is achieved, it will be interesting to see how politicians behave around that barrier. Dawood and the Wajir Women Rep was also who recently made inflammatory statements on Ruto stealing, or rather Ruto doing rather rigging the 2027 general elections. There are also two MPs from the Kalenjin land that are also facing recall. Yes, I'm told one in Nandi Hills and the other one have not been confirmed. So this is a threat. Of course, this is something that is shaking Parliament. At this point, I would want to I was just doing some research on, because you don't just recall an MP, there must be sufficient grounds. So this is what is in the Constitution. According to this section, a member of Parliament may be recalled when the MP is found after due process of law to have violated of the provisions of Chapter 6, which is the Leadership and Integrity Act. This one, all fall below the bar. All of them. Whether the MP is found after due process of the law to have mismanaged public resources, this could include misappropriation of the constituency development funds, improper use of public property, engaging in corrupt practices, and a failure to properly account for public funds under their management. This is one that can also catch up with many. All of them are misusing the CDF. The CDF kit that is supposed to benefit the people is just their own political tool they're using to manipulate the masses. The other ground is if the MP is convicted of an offense under Elections Act number 24, 2011. This is what is catching up with Didmas Baraza. This includes offenses such as bribery, undue influence, electoral malpractice, voter impersonation, double voting, interfering with election materials, destroying or falsifying election documents, making false statements about a candidate, and engaging in campaigning outside the designated periods, and so on and so forth. So this is, the recall is a big worry to the members of Parliament that is coming. Remember, the ghost of Finance Bill 2024 would actually come to haunt at this point. Yes, the ghost of how people reacted to the Finance Bill 2024 is a big problem. And it will actually come at this point to show what exactly do people want, or what exactly are people feeling about all this. Now, before looking at why MPs are now terrified about the recall move that is going on, I need to say this, that I think we are in 2025 July, and someone is already seated somewhere to make sure that by 2027 the country will go full blown in early political campaigns. 2027 January, we are going to experience more political tension. The country is going to reboot into full campaign. I think campaigns already started, and the president is also looking for opportunities to move to the other areas. And the discussion will be about all this. We will want to see a little bit these activities. But this is why the UDA MPs are terrified about this course. Creating several of these by-elections could be part of the plan to create an IEBC budget crisis. Let me tell you, and the budget crisis comes in this way. IEBC that was formed is supposed to, has a lot to be done. There's so many litigations that are still going on as to whether we're going manual or digital. And now there is the discussion about whether people should be allowed just to vote with the ID and scrapping the voter's card. There has been a limitation to who can vote. But of course, and of course, I say this, the people that are saying that people should just walk to the stations with voters' card. We want to make it, yes, it has the latitude of allowing so many people to vote, but it is an open door for rigging. You know, in the past, we know in a constituency, we have X number of people. Registered voters ni hawa. So why do people register to vote? So that we can cap. There is no way you can have 30,000 registered voters. Then on election day, you have 90,000 people has voted. You know, and you can see desperate the Nyanza guys are the ones pushing for it. In Northeastern, there is something called now mobile ID. IDs are being given now now that vetting was removed. IDs are being given like now kila mtu. Then someone comes up and makes a consensus that, look here, we want to vote just with the ID. How will you be sure if you don't have a specific list of voters? Or will we have number of IDs zenye zote? Watu wote wako na ID. Kuna watu watakuwa na ma-ID zao and wataenda kuregister wako na ma-ID zao. They just have the IDs. And with the voting with the ID, someone will just move there and go vote there. Go vote there, go vote there. It is, I don't know. I believe, but I believe it can be done, but there is a way it has its own demerits. So we want to create a budget crisis. We will start asking, IEBC will start asking themselves, do they have the money to undertake 10 by-elections? Do they, to have that? Do they have, there have been a lot of questions that will come, and then this will still be used not to address it. The by-elections and recall will drag litigations in court. So many. I can tell you, hizi zote zingine hizi recall zote, they will end up at some point in front of a judge, a 3-bench judge, to decide. I don't know to do that. And that could be the next phase of making sure that by-elections are delayed. I've always believed, it is in my conscience, if you ask me, if you wake me up in the working night, I will tell you that Kenya Kwanza are not very comfortable with those by-elections. They don't want that. They don't want it. And William Ruto has never been, I believe the Mambo de Maptatu would have applied to the IEBC and now we could be having an IEBC. The other third thing is UDA has been scared of by-elections and are looking for balancing act. So there are some areas that by-elections will be pushed, not because of the rational appeal, but because we want by-elections in areas that we are able to win. For example, how about if by-elections are done and the government loses in all of them, which is a possibility. They can lose in Bere, they can lose in Malava, they can lose in Kasipol, they can lose in Ugunja, of course, they can lose in Banisa, they can lose in Tana River, they can lose. So someone will still create that just to bring balancing act, just to balance. So at least even the other people, government doesn't lose in all. Thank you.